Welcome back to Mi Vaya Mi Vida. I am Juan Carmona.
And I am Mariana Luna, and we are your hosts.
It's good to be back. I'm sorry we've been delayed for a while. Life gets in the way. We've been so busy with work and stuff, but we want to get back to putting out some episodes. So this is our first, and we'll have we're hoping to put out quite a few real soon. So this is our first one. So let's get right to it. So me and Mariana are sitting here outside the San Juan Hotel. We decided to do a piece on this because in October it was pointed out to me by one of the other group members, Taylor, that they were using this as a haunted house, and I was surprised to hear that. And we decided to come to just take a look at it, and my gosh, it's like super dilapidated. It looks like almost like it would be dangerous to have people in here. We're kind of like in shock that it was used that way.
Yeah, there's so much trash and graffiti and stuff, so you can tell people have been in here. And yeah, it just looks dangerous, to put it just very simply. I was pretty surprised when they announced that they were going to have a haunted house in this hotel. And so as we were walking around, we were just asking questions, because of the state of the building. Just looks very, well, dilapidated, right? It looks very worn down, and if it is such a historic building, I mean, why is there not more like protection around it? I guess that's one question that's coming up to me right now.
Yeah, we're sitting here parked, and we just went on the sidewalk, so we would be on public property to take our pictures. But in the parking lot, you can see that it says like security cameras in use, some private property, but it doesn't seem to be stopping anyone from getting in there. And there's this whole history connected to this building, and there's a historical plaque in the front to Tom Mayfield, and there's a whole history connected with him as well. And so what we're going to do in this podcast is just explore the history of the hotel and the history of Tom Mayfield. And and so that's what we're gonna interview my brother, who's been doing a lot of research into Tom Mayfield, and just give you a little bit of history of what's this area and this building itself. I know personally I've heard rumors, and we're gonna clear all that up, but there was a possible lynching in or near in this area, so that's why we were kind of shocked. Another reason that we're shocked that they were using the building, because if there was such a thing, it almost seems disrespectful to have a haunted house there.
Yeah, so we want to look into just what exactly the San Juan Hotel, the background of it is, and what is the connection. And I asked the question as we were walking around, if it was deemed, like, when was it deemed historical, if it even was deemed a historical marker, and if it was, why did they do that? And also, if it's not a historical building protected by the city, I would expect them to have torn it down already, because the area that it's in has been developing, but also this is historic downtown, so maybe they don't want to tear it down and have just a little piece of history. But again, if it's very important, why is it in this state? So hopefully we can answer some of those questions later in this episode. Okay, so to start off, we're going to do a little bit of background of the San Juan Hotel and also San Juan itself. So just a little blurb of factoids here. So in 1904, area entrepreneurs John Klausner, Leonidas C. Hill, Tom Hicks, and others obtained the extension of the St. Louis, Brownsville, and Mexico Railway from Harlingen to San Fortis. That same year, Klausner acquired 45,000 acres bordering the Rio Grande River, establishing the once only suitable land for grazing as a San Juan plantation, where he experimented with various crops. So the town of San Juan was incorporated in December 1929, 1917, with R.M. Savage, which was Klausner's nephew, as mayor, and R.M. Gregory and P.J. Williams as commissioners, with the population swelling to about 1,200. So San Juan quickly developed a business district along 5th Street before 1920, along Standard Street were businesses of Valley Hardware, home of the Nash car and truck dealer, H.D. Taylor Lumber Company, and Lipscomb and Griffin. So that street there is where the San Juan Hotel is right now, and it's a nice business district right now. There's a lot of little shops, there's a couple of restaurants, there's a tattoo shop right across from the San Juan Hotel also. And so it's a historic downtown there. So the San Juan Hotel was given a facelift in 1928 and changed its appearance to what it looks like today. They put in the raised concrete letters that says the San Juan Hotel, which you see today. The Mission Revival style incorporated red Spanish tile after removing the original overhang that covered the existing entry canopy. And so at this point in time, the hotel cared for many visitors, mainly from the Midwest, who came from the valley on land excursion trains to buy citrus grove and farms in this tropical area.
Yeah, around that time in the early 1900s, early 20th century, is the time period, we've done episodes on it before, where there was a lot of land changing hands through violence, and Mexicans were, saw themselves losing land and losing, power in the South Texas region, Rio Grande Valley. And as anglers were acquiring this land, now it became a business of selling this land speculation, converting this land from ranching to farming. And so they were bringing in people from the Midwest, successful farmers from the Midwest, down to the valley via the railroad. They would refer to the valley as like the Magic Valley, because you could get up to like 3 crops a year because of the weather, and now with the irrigation and with the introduction of the railroad, you can get your crops out. So they called these things excursions. They bring them down, show them the valley, and so in this case, they'd stay at the San Juan Hotel, but go around and show them the area in hopes that they would buy land and farm here.
We had a lot of people coming in from other parts of the country, so the San Juan Hotel instantly just became a place where people could stay. And this is where your big businessmen, I'm assuming, would just, they would stay here, right? So from 1928 to 1950, the hotel was managed by a number of people and families, including J.V. Murphy, who was also the manager of the Plaza Hotel in Harlingen, and who was also the manager of the La Villa Cortez Hotel in Weslaco at that same time. So in 1945, Edward J. Nelson and Edna Nelson then took over the management of the hotel, and the hotel's ownership ended when Edna was murdered in the hotel lobby along with a shoe salesman after she recognized the gunman as an outlaw. So there has been speculation and rumors that there was deaths and there's hauntings at the San Juan Hotel. So between the research between me and Juan did, this is the first documented death that we have found that happened on the actual property itself. So after that, Reynolds and Nellie Anderson then became owner-managers in 1956. Vance and Charlene Bryan then held the property from October 1931, 1960 to February 8th, 1968, and then used it as a private residence. So starting in about 1958, Tom Mayfield, Texas Ranger, became a local resident celebrity and continued to reside during the Bryans' tenure as guest of the city for about $31 a month. Ranger Mayfield won renown in 1915 when he captured Basilio Ramos, exposing what this source says as a German-Japanese-Mexican plot known as the Plan de San Diego to take back territory lost to Texas by Mexico. Juan, do you want to correct this source a little bit here?
Yeah, this is a source that we came across and actually has a really good history about the city of San Juan, the San Juan Hotel. This reference to the Plan de San Diego, though, I think they might be mixing the Plan de San Diego with the Zimmerman Telegram, which is one of the reasons the United States enters World War I. The Zimmerman Telegram was a telegram from the Prime Minister of Germany to Mexico in order to get Mexico to attack the United States or ally with Germany and distract the United States so they don't go to war in Germany. The actual document that's captured, that they capture on Basilio Ramos, is the Plan de San Diego, which is this call to arms. And this is, like I said earlier, this time period known as La Matanza, where there's a lot of violence against Mexicans and then retaliatory violence. And so they become this organized resistance, a seditionists, as they would refer to themselves. And then this plan was this idea that they were going to kill every Anglo over 12, give back, back the states that were taking the Mexican-American War, give land to African Americans, give land to Native Americans. They even included rights of Japanese to get some land here because there were Japanese living in South Texas and in Mexico, and also assisting during the Mexican Revolution. But the plan to San Diego didn't have any connection with Germany. It was a regional reaction to the violence on the border.
After that, so in the mid-60s, the Bryans then left San Juan. And then during this time, after the hotel was kind of left a little bit vacant, I am assuming, the hotel was continuously vandalized and deteriorated, leading to a major fire in 1968. And then you get some people who are trying to renovate it, and there's different ownership going back and forth. But then on November 23rd, 1981, Glenn Sigel, I think that's how you say his name, who had his master's degree from the University of Virginia in architectural history, and his son, David, purchased the hotel with the intent of restoring the once beautiful hotel to its former beauty. Spanish colonial building to its former beauty. And so on November 10th, 1983, the doors were reopened, attracting birdwatching groups as far away as England and Canada as they visited the very nice and beautiful Santa Ana Bird Refuge and Benson State Park. So then the hotel was AAA approved and was a member of the Historical Hotel Association in 1985. And then in August of 1985, the hotel was designated a Texas Historic Landmark by the Texas Historical Commission, and a RTHL marker was dedicated on January 26, 1986. And then several owners have operated the business with little success and allowing it to fall into despair once again. And then when you pass by today, you can see that it looks very dilapidated. It looks very run down. And right now you can still see the remnants of when it was a haunted house this past October 2022. The signs are still up, but there's a lot of graffiti, and it just looks, it looks like it was once a beautiful hotel, but you can see that it has been vandalized and just really run down.
The historical plaque that right now is in the front of the hotel is, all about Tom Mayfield and the fact that he lived in that hotel building. But the history about Tom Mayfield isn't really very accurate on the plaque. So what I decided to do is my brother has done a lot of research into this area and Tom Mayfield. So we're going to hear from him as, a more full history of whom Tom Mayfield was. So at the San Juan Hotel, there is a historical marker to Tom Mayfield. And I want to read the contents of that marker. Then I'm going to move on to asking my brother, Christopher Carmona, who's done a little bit more research on Tom Mayfield, to give us a little bit more about this man. So the marker itself says, Tom Mayfield left the Gonzales County farm of his parents, John and Maggie Mayfield, in 1898 to help buy horses for Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders. Between 1910 and 1921, Tom served as Forest City Marshal, Texas Ranger, and Hidalgo County Deputy Sheriff. His role in exposing a German-Mexican World War I plot in nearby San Diego and his amazing escape from a Mexican firing squad in 1929 made Tom a local celebrity. As far as San Juan Alamo's Deputy Constable from 1938 to 1963, Tom gained the community's highest respect. He spent his last years as a resident of the San Juan Hotel. Now, I've done a little bit of research into this era, but my brother has done a little more. So let's hear a little bit more about the real Tom Mayfield.
Yes, well, thanks for having me, Jape. So to start off about Tom Mayfield, first of all, he was born in 1880. So in Leesville, in Gonzales County, which is true. But the marker has a lot of things completely wrong. First of all, in 1898, he Well, the myth about him buying horses for Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Rangers is not really anywhere in historical record. It's all about a myth. So a lot about what Tom Mayfield is myth. Especially the only thing that of significant historical is the fact that he was the officer that did arrest Basilio Ramos, who was carrying the documents for the Plan de San Diego, which had nothing to do with the Germans, and was not a German-Mexican World War I plot in any way, shape, or form. The Plan de San Diego was a primarily Mexican-American plot to retake the Southwest from the U.S., primarily because of the violence of the Texas Rangers on the South Texas borderlands. So Tom Mayfield is one of these figures that has a lot of myth surrounding him, and a lot of the fact of his own life was not really that either grossly misjudged or wrong, plainly wrong. So Tom Mayfield, he was born there. His father was a rancher who lived in Gonzales County, and in about somewhere around 1904, he was recruited by A.Y. Baker, who at that time was a Texas Ranger. But A.Y. Baker was dismissed from the Texas Rangers after shooting a policeman in the street in Houston. After that, he became Hidalgo County Treasurer. He was elected Hidalgo County Treasurer. And then that same year, John Klausner was elected the Hidalgo County Sheriff. Well, A.Y. Baker did not really want to be a treasurer, so he switched offices with Klausner and became Hidalgo County Sheriff, which at the time and today is illegal. But it happened, and so A.Y. Baker was also the chief resident for creating the special designation of Special Ranger for the Texas Rangers, which is interesting because technically when Tom Mayfield came down, he came down as a appointment as a Special Ranger and as a Hidalgo County Sheriff, which according to Trinidad Gonzalez and Monica Munoz Martinez, the Special Ranger designation was usually not really assigned by anybody in the Rangers. It was just someone who was prominent in the area. And in this case, or local law enforcement like A.Y. Baker. So this designation was, in a lot of ways, really kind of vague as to what the position was, but the Special Rangers were not really appointed by the governor, which is what most of the Texas Rangers were. They were just basically deputized as a ranger on the spot, and that's what Tom Mayfield was, and which was a common practice during this era, especially during 1915 all the way into the 1920s, early 1920s, which was, leads to a lot of the rinches, what comes about with their lives. So Tom Mayfield did not also escape a Mexican fire squad in 1921. He actually, according to an oral history by a good friend of his, when Tom Mayfield died, he explained a lot of this in his oral history. A lot of the information about Tom Mayfield was made up, and the story. What happens is that in the community, he wasn't as respected as he was feared. A lot of the Mexican American community, different peoples that I interviewed, talked about Tom Mayfield as a terror in a lot of different ways. He and they called him El Ronco because he couldn't speak above a whisper. And that's where the myth of him getting his throat cut and escaping a fire squad led to him being called El Ronco. But actually, in actuality, in his best friend's testimony, oral history of him, it was actually because he was getting surgery done in Mexico and they had to cut out his voice box. And what was happening, I don't know. He doesn't say in his oral history, but he says that's actually what happened with Tom Mayfield. So there's a lot of this going around telling him all, And Tom Mayfield himself was involved, in a lot of these massacres of Mexican Americans during the Matanza, the Mexicans of, one of them in particular, which one he's credited for, is the massacre of 15 men between Donna and Alamo. And I guess the record or the official records of the time, he is the one who found it. But according to a lot of the people around the area, he was actually one of the lead rangers who perpetrated the massacre that day. And he's linked to a lot of these different atrocities throughout the Matanza and afterwards. When he becomes marshal, he spent most of his life living in the San Juan Hotel, the second half of his life. He lived there with his wife, who was actually a Mexican woman that he married in 1905. And so there's different stories which I have not been able to verify at this point, which talks about how he used to scare the Mexican children, basically talking about the hangings and lynchings that he was involved with, and threatening that they would get hung in the courtyard of the San Juan Hotel. Now, to determine, how many people actually died there, what actually occurred there, that is still up to the different people's accounts. And there's no official records of anyone dying there, except for, I believe, one other person who is not connected to Mayfield. But Mayfield himself did a lot of damage to the Mexican American community in South Texas. And he maintained this kind of, I guess you would call it, aura of really a terror for a lot of the Mexican peoples here. And, there's accounts of them saying that, they knew he was coming because he used to shave down the heel of his boot to the size of like a dime, so that when he walked up, that they would hear him coming, they would know it was Tom Mayfield, and that was the sound that they associated with him. And and so there was a lot of unlawful, extra legal arrests that he made during his time as city marshal. And in, I believe, in the early 60s, there was someone that actually did run against him who was a Mexican American, but he lost to Tom Mayfield. There's a lot of this, he does have his marker there, which is completely, most of it is not even true, what's on that marker there. And he does have a park named after him not too far from there, called the Tom Mayfield Park in San Juan. And so that's where he spent the rest of his life. And he's actually buried in Edinburgh. But his family, he has kids, and I think they're still around. So one of them, I think, is an insurance agent around here. But Tom Mayfield is more myth than anything else, a myth that he created on his own to make him seem that he was involved in way more than he was. But the stuff that doesn't get covered, the massacres and things of this nature, are, a lot of the stories that the community around here talk about, and a lot of the practices that were utilized during the Matanza era. Just a clarification also on the arrest of Basilio Ramos. Basilio Ramos was arrested in McAllen for carrying copies of the Plan de San Diego, which is this document that is a revolutionary document to free the Southwest from the U.S. for Mexican peoples, African Americans, Native Americans, and Japanese. This didn't really happen, but what also was interesting about the arrest is that Baker told him not to arrest him, and Mayfield went ahead and did it anyway. And so there is a lot of disinformation about what actually occurred with that. But with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over.
Well, thanks, Chris, for giving us a little bit more information and background about Tom Mayfield. I'd known some of this, but not as in depth as the story he just told. And it really gives us perspective to the history we hear in the Valley, and maybe in some of the history that's shared, and the truth behind a lot of it, and a lot of the mythology that's created about some of these prominent people in the Valley in our history.
So thank you for joining us for yet another amazing episode of Mi Vaya Mi Vida. Once again, sorry about the delay, and we hope you enjoyed this history of the San Juan Hotel and the history of Tom Mayfield and the truth about it also. And we do have pictures of the San Juan Hotel. If you don't know what it looks like now, we do have them up on our Facebook page. You can also find them on our Instagram and our Twitter. If you want to go check those out also. Handles will be tagged, and you can go check us out, follow us, like and share, and tell your friends about all our upcoming episodes coming up soon. And also, check out all our previous episodes if you may have missed out on any, or you were just missing out on some episodes since our long hiatus.
Thank you very much once again for tuning in, and until next time,
We love you, RGV.